And this is what the brother from Mombasa, I believe, was speaking about in the tent. أَفَلَمْ يَسِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, will they not travel through the earth? فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا, and when you travel through the earth, perchance the dead heart might come alive. And then with that heart, you'll be able to understand what otherwise you did not. أَوْ آذَانٌ يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا, and with those ears you'll be able to hear what otherwise you could not hear. فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ, truly, it's not these eyes that are blind. No. وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ, what is blind is the heart which is inside the chest. And so now we know that the heart can see when there's faith in it. This is epistemology, the branch of knowledge which studies knowledge. And it is only after he answered that ihsan is that you should worship Allah as though you're seeing Him, yani, with your heart. Only then were we introduced to questions 4 and 5, which is the end time. When will the last hour come? He says the one who is being questioned has no more knowledge than the one who is questioning. He didn't say, I didn't know. He said the one who is being questioned has no more knowledge than the one who is questioning. What are the signs of the last day? The alamat as-sa'a. And then he replied, gave us 2. The first one, very easy. You got to be blind not to see it. That the naked barefooted shepherds will be competing with each other in the construction of tall buildings. Have you been to Malaysia recently, anybody? And those who divert such enormous resources to the construction of spectacular high-rise buildings are a people who measure progress by the height of a building. And the Prophet is saying of them, some of them get angry when this is taught. You have the intellectual acumen of naked, barefooted shepherds. We are in the end times now. And so this is the time when, as never before, we need al-ihsan. It is not just a question of moral growth. Of course, you can never reach al-ihsan without moral growth. Faith will not enter into the heart until the heart is turned to Allah. But it's not always like that. Like the fellow in New York, did I tell you about him? I don't think it was Brooklyn, maybe it was Harlem. He says, Lord, I live for you. I'll die for you. Everything I'll give up for you, but not my green card. Not my green card. Well, there are many others like him. I can't do that because my business will collapse. I can't do it because I won't get a US visa. I can't do it because they're going to put my name on the no-fly list. I can't do it because if I do it, all the funding for my Islamic organization will dry up. They need to have something called ghusl, a bath, to wash that shirk. Because with the lips you were saying Allah, but with the heart you were saying something else. It is when the heart is turned to Allah, when you live for Allah, and as the class mentioned with the 10, you prepare to die for Allah. Now, alhamdulillah, now you're standing up. When that happens, then we know that these eyes cannot see without light. When electricity goes, you've got to feel for the box of matches, don't you? Similarly, this internal eye cannot see without light. And the Prophet said, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, in a hadith recorded in the Sunan of Imam Tirmidhi, ittaqu firasat al-mu'min, fear the firasa of the mu'min, the one who has faith. Firasa being more than simply wisdom. Wisdom that comes from internal, intuitive, spiritual insight. Basira. Fear the firasa of the mu'min. فَإِنَّهُ يَنْظُرُ بِنُورِ اللَّهِ, because when he sees with the nur of Allah. How do we get that nur? Because without that we won't be al-ihsan, and without al-ihsan we cannot handle the subject of the end times, that we are now living in the end times. Very quickly, it's a Surah An-Nur, Surah number 24, Ayah number 35. And you are familiar with the Ayah, so we don't have to spend the time on it. That Allah is the Nur of the heavens and the earth, and that which will make you understand the subject is a mishkat, hollow space. And the Prophet said, fi qalbil mu'min, a hollow space of the heart of the believer. And in that hollow space there is a lamp, and the lamp has a glass, and the glass is glittering, it is so spotlessly clean. And so question number one, how do we get nur? Well, first of all, the truth must enter into the heart. And when the truth enters into the heart, there is the process of purification until the glass is clean, and then you've got to polish it with zikr. And what is the best zikr of all? What is the zikr? The definite article before it. It's the Qur'an. Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr. And so the recitation of the Qur'an, the constant recitation of the Qur'an, the recitation of the Qur'an with tears in your eyes, the recitation of the Qur'an with tears in your heart, that is the polish. You don't need to go looking for any more. And you're not reciting the Qur'an unless you're reciting it in accordance with the Sunnah. And the Sunnah is cover to cover. Am I right? Is that the Sunnah? You know the story about the woman who was married and husband had no time to even touch her. And so she went and she complained. She had the right to do so. So the Prophet called the man. Find out why he didn't have time to even touch his wife. And then he said to him, okay, recite the Qur'an, meaning cover to cover, once a month. The man said, oh Messenger of Allah, but I couldn't do better than that. He says, all right, once a week, but no faster than that. You must have some time for your wife. So we know that reciting the Qur'an cover to cover at least once a month. At least once a month is what the Prophet ﷺ asked for. If you can do better than that, you do better than that. So he divided the Qur'an into 7 parts. You know that. Because there are how many days in the week? 7 days. Even Pope Gregory can't change that. So you recite the whole Qur'an once a week. But you know how life is busy today. Everybody busy. Morning traffic, evening traffic, and so on. So most of us are as lazy as Imran Hosein. So we recite it once a month. You're doing that, aren't you? Come on, shake your heads. If you're not doing that, well, start now. Cover to cover. The first time, yes, I know, if you're not an Arab, the first time it might take about 5-6 months. Don't be worried. Never mind. The second time, it'll take less time. And then the third and the fourth and the fifth, and then you become familiar with the word. You won't be stumbling over them. And then the time will come when the whole day passes. From the time you woke in the morning until the time you sleep at night, and you never recited the Qur'an, you're going to go to sleep with pain in your heart. This is called zikr. This polishes the heart. But you need more than that. For nur, you need some oil in the lamp. Not any oil will work for the last age. No, you need the best oil. And which is the best one? Zaytun, the olive oil. And this is an olive oil tree that leans neither to the east or to the west. It stands firmly for Allah. And the oil of this tree is so pure. Why? Because he lives for Allah. He'll die for Allah, this fellow. So he produces the best oil of all. That it's glowing already, even though fire has not as yet touched it. So when that nur enters into the heart, the flame is lit, then anything he does, it's transformed into nur. Nurun ala nur. Yes, I know there are many more sophisticated ways of explaining the ayah. This is the most elementary, but this is the most important for us here. But how does the verse end? Wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. Wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. Ilm, knowledge. The ayah is sending a message that the purpose of the acquisition of nur is not for performing somersaults on the cloud. That would be spectacular. Whole of Cape Town will stop to look at you. He's somersaulting on a cloud. But I saw him in the Hajj. He was going around the Kaaba. And you say he was here in Cape Town all through the time of the Hajj. Great feat, eh? 2 places at the same time and so on. That is not the supreme function of nur when it enters the heart. Rather, the supreme function is located in this search for knowledge. So that when you have nur, you can now see what otherwise you could not see. There's nothing mysterious about this subject, isn't it? Any one of you can teach this subject now. We've not trespassed beyond any barrier of the Qur'an or the Sunnah. We are planted firmly in the Qur'an and the Sunnah. And we have presented to you Islamic spirituality. And when it enters into the heart, and you can now see, اتقوا فراسة المؤمن فإنه ينظر بنور الله. Fear the firasa of the mu'min. But when he sees with the nur of Allah. Anybody could see the tall buildings. Even the former Prime Minister of Malaysia. But then he spoke about a slave woman giving birth to her mistress. And that one isn't easy. No. In order for us to penetrate this sign of the last day, of the slave woman giving birth to the mistress, we need